You ever watch a title fight where the first 30 seconds tell you everything, where one guy sprints across the cage, gets hands on you, and you can practically hear the door click behind you? That was Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 319. He didn't walk into a championship bout, he imposed the standard. 5 rounds later, the belt moved, the division shook, and a lot of middleweights started texting their wrestling coaches with the same 2 words: we adjust. Hey, I'm Reggie Cross. If you're new here, we don't do highlight reels with adjectives. We do fight math and fight truth. So let's unpack exactly how Chimaev did it, what Dricus du Plessis tried, who's actually a live threat at 185, and why 2 spinning elbow detonations on the same main card might have been the night's wildest omen for what comes next. Stick around. By the end, we'll talk about Khamzat's 2.5 divisions of chaos and the double title stakes waiting at UFC 320. Chimaev's opening look wasn't complicated. Stance low, hands active, jab just enough to hide level change. The read was simple. DDP's feet set heavy when he throws. Khamzat took that window and chain wrestled like a metronome. Single to run the pipe, reshoot on the mat return, ride pressure off the fence, and when Dricus posted, Khamzat shelved the leg and collapsed the hips. That's the kind of wrestling that makes time feel longer than it is. Here's the cold math. 12 takedowns on 17 attempts and more than 21 minutes of control time. That's not a strategy, that's a residency. If you've ever practiced cage rides, you saw the Dagestani handcuff, cross wrist rides, wrist over wrist pressure, and that shoulder pin crucifix he kept sneaking when Dricus went prone. Khamzat didn't need to force a finish because he was forcing compliance. Judges saw the same thing, 50-44 across the board.
But Reggie, Dricus is chaos on feet. Why didn't he sell out?
Well, he tried. You could see him hunting for wide pivots, underhooks, whizzers, even a last frame guillotine when Khamzat left his neck a hair high in a scramble. Credit to DDP. The dude's heart doesn't have a quit button. The problem wasn't effort, it was geometry. Khamzat kept his head on the chest, clasped the hands behind the knees early, and once he stapled the hips, du Plessis was playing uphill on every exchange. And that uphill is why the real question after 319 isn't just how Chimaev won, it's who can make him fight on level ground. Let's give Dricus his flowers. He came in with 2 smart ideas. Burst windows, throw in 2s and 3s, land the calf kick, then immediately move the feet so you're not a stationary shot. Short side frames. If Khamzat's head is on your left pec, frame that side, knee shield the hip, and create a post to stand. He also tried that guillotine scare late. If your neck gets sweaty and the grip's right, that can buy you precious seconds. But here's the catch. The guillotine is a tax, not a plan, unless you're Brian Ortega. Against a rider like Khamzat, you need underhook discipline, wrist control on the escape, and one more thing fighters hate admitting. They need to do less in the pocket. Dricus loves to overcommit on offense. It's part of his power. Against a level changer like Chimaev, every overcommit is a hand-delivered entry. He paid the toll all night. So who at 185 can stop paying that toll? If you want to beat this version of Khamzat, your scouting report has to read like a shopping list. Anti-wrestling first step, not just sprawl hips that win the initial angle, re-wrestle on the fence, dig inside space, peel hands, win shoulders, jab that punishes entries, not just range finding, a jab with intent, cardio that doesn't blink because the pace is the fight. 3 names float to the top right now. Nasruddin Imavov, he's the cleanest pocket defender of the bunch. He'll punish naked level changes with intercepting uppercuts and knees, and he doesn't over-rotate on combos. But the question is whether his wedge and turn defense on the cage holds up after the 3rd reshoot. Caio Borralho, good balance, good base, strong back take instincts and transitions. He can scramble with a plan. The concern, he sometimes backs straight to fence and resets. Khamzat loves that. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, motor for days, pressure, and a willingness to grind dirty. He might not win clean, but if anyone matches grit for grit, it's Fluffy. He also loves front headlock trees. If he can get Khamzat's head under him in chaos, you get leverage moments. Do I think any of them stop 12 takedowns tonight? No. Do I think they can slow the entries, force mat returns to take longer, and make rounds close? That's the fight. The blueprint exists, it's just expensive. And yes, the UFC schedule itself tells you who's at the front of the line. They've literally booked Imavov versus Borralho for a headline spot this fall. Winner likely gets the golden ticket. But Khamzat's not acting like a division guy. He's talking like a tourist with a multi-stop itinerary.
Chimaev's been flirting with a wild sentence. Welterweight down, light heavyweight up.
Australian guy. If I go up, Ankalaev and Pereira, they're fighting now. Who's winning can fight for that belt as well.
Before this fight, he straight up said he'd been talking to his new coach about making 170 again with a proper runway. After, the chatter hasn't cooled. He's still eyeing 205 too. That's not random bravado. That's a man who knows the math at both ends and believes his strength travels. At 170, the obstacles are the scale and the truth about first round Khamzat versus later round Khamzat. If he's gone on the cut, the gas becomes a storyline. If he's not, there isn't a welterweight alive who welcomes that opening 3 minutes. At 205 pounds, the striking power jumps, and so does the size of hips he has to shelf. But his pose entry, head on chest, hands locked below the butt line, is universal. If he gets 2 hands around your legs, physics starts singing the same song. That's the macro. Now, let's talk about the 2 wildest micro moments of the entire card.
Aaron Pico showed up for his UFC debut like he was clocking in for bonus hours. Fast level changes, body work, real urgency. And then Lerone Murphy hit the emergency brake. He did what mature fighters do against wrestle boxers. Played calm high guard, timed the forward pressure, backed Pico into the wrong rhythm, and when Pico's head tracked the line, spin, elbow, sleep.
Look at that left hook. So much pressure. Spinning attack. And still,
First round, lights out. No controversy, no doubts. Herb Dean had to be fast because that kind of connection turns off the operating system. Official, KO, round 1, 321, spinning back elbow. Here's why it matters. Murphy's been quietly undefeated for a minute. The criticism was that he decisioned too much against elite movers. This wasn't a split point win, this was statement violence, the kind that gets the champion's attention. He left the mic on Title Talk, and he's earned that call. ESPN literally logged it as one of 2 spinning elbow KOs on the same card, a first in UFC history. And if that elbow felt like a thunderclap, the next one sounded like a baseball bat.
Jeff Neal is not easy to style on. He's compact, patient, and hits like a truck on short levers. That didn't matter to Carlos Prates. In a wild end-of-round sequence, Prates measured, then uncorked a spinning back elbow that detonated with 1 second left in round 1. Walk off. The sound was nasty, the kind of crack you don't forget. Official round 1, 459, spinning back elbow. If you were wondering how many welterweights can create damage without the pocket being on, meet Carlos. And yes, that means we got back-to-back spinning elbow stoppages on a UFC main card for the first time ever. You couldn't script that if you tried. It's like the sport wanted to remind us that the shortest path to the off switch isn't always the straight line. Violence wasn't done. There was a chess match too. People thought Michael Venom Page would get bullied up at 185 by a seasoned power puncher like Cannonier. Instead, MVP did MVP things. Feint, draw, sting, exit, and kept the fight in his numbers. You saw the rhythm traps, hand fight to freeze the guard, long step to the outside angle, and a jab that isn't just a jab, it's a tripwire. Cannonier had moments when he clipped the legs and tried to corral MVP defense, but Page didn't give him the second beat. The judges went 29-28 across for MVP, clean, professional, and exactly the kind of win that keeps him dangerous against any linear pressure fighter at 185. Prelims had their own fire, but one result matters for future matchmaking right now.
You want a reminder that cage IQ is a weapon? Tim Elliott pulled it out of his back pocket and snatched the guillotine in round 2 to submit Kai Asakura. Elliott's game looks chaotic until it doesn't. He'll bite on feints, change levels, and suddenly he's hanging your neck on the fence line. Flyweight never stops moving, and if you hand Elliott your neck in transition, he'll make you pay rent for it. Official. Sub. Round 2, 4:39. Guillotine. Back to the belt that moved. The defensive blueprint versus Khamzat, if there is one. If you're a 185er watching this, here's the uncomfortable list you take to practice. Beat the hands, not the shot. Don't sprawl to nowhere. Fight the grip first. If he can't lock his hands, he can't shelf your hips. Fence discipline. If you go to the cage, go on purpose with an underhook plan and head position that wins. No square shoulders, no straight backs. Jab his entries, knee his rhythm. Khamzat doesn't throw lazy entries, but he does level change on the bounce. If your jab and intercepting knee live at the same address, you can tax him. Round thefts. If you get up with 90 seconds left, you have to score. Judges remember a clean last minute more than they remember the first. Don't just celebrate the stand-up, make him pay. Cardio plus composure. This is obvious, but it's not optional. You can't win 1 and 2 and survive 3 through 5. You have to be able to fight him off at minute 23. None of that is easy. All of it is mandatory. And until someone forces Khamzat to live on the outside for long stretches without tying feet together, we're grading contenders on hypothetical curves. Which brings us to the next show the UFC is dangling in neon lights. Next stop, UFC 320 Double Gold Night, October 4th, Las Vegas. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira, 2 headlines. 205 gold on the line. Striker Sledgehammer versus Dagestani Diesel. First one went Ankalaev's way. Pereira wants the run back. Co-main, Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen for the bantamweight title. Merab's cardio nightmare versus Sandhagen's geometry class. That's 2 belts, 2 styles, and a whole lot of consequences for anyone dreaming multiverse belts. But let's land this plane where we started, on the mat. A lot of folks online label any wrestling-heavy clinic as boring. I get it. We love haymakers and head kicks. But high-level control isn't hiding. It's exposure. You're naked in there. Every breath is audited. Chimaev didn't stall. He processed. He kept du Plessis on the wrong side of the scramble. Chained grips like a smartwatch, counting your panic. And when he needed to, he sprinkled just enough elbows to remind you that gravity is a weapon too. That isn't playing safe. That's playing sovereign. And yet, the beauty of MMA is that sovereignty has a half-life. Beating Khamzat Chimaev isn't just about skills. It's about denying inevitability. He's not unbeatable. He's uncomfortable. He forces you to do the thing you hate the most for longer than you planned. If you can't breathe there, if you can't make him second-guess entries, if you can't make him pay for the ride, he'll drown not by flooding you, but by lowering the waterline slowly until your toes can't touch bottom. Drink has tried. He'll be back and he'll be better. But Saturday night was a message to 185.
You have been waiting for a long time. Your first opportunity at a world title, and you came through.
If you show up with only one answer, Khamzat will ask you 2 questions at once. And with that, we'll put this one to rest. UFC 319 was a good card that had to deal with some drama before the cage door closed, but once it did, was worth the wait. Thanks for joining me. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe. I'm Reggie Cross for Behind the Lines, and remember, hype fades, legacy don't. Peace.
745.